Welcome to our April webinar. This month, we have Mark Light, who's an OSU Extension agent working with 4-H. He's up in Hardin County, but he also is now the state person dealing with 4-H and STEM and digital kinds of things. So he's going to tell us about some of the great stuff 4-H has been doing in the STEM area, as well as digital tools. We've interfaced with some of those over time around the state, and it's great to learn how to get everything into one kind of piece here. So thanks for joining us, Mark.
Thanks for having me. So I'll go ahead and kind of go through. So as we were talking about earlier, I've actually been with Extension in Ohio State for 16 years. Prior to that, I worked at Ohio Northern University, which is where I did my undergrad work for 10 years. And I got my bachelor's in civil engineering. So that's kind of where my STEM and technology focus has played a initial foundation for me. And since then, STEM and technology have always kind of woven themselves through some of my different career paths. And so currently, I help all of our 88 counties support their STEM programming efforts across the state. And so doing that on a part-time basis, there's hope that there will be a full-time position in the future. So hopefully, that's something that in to 2023, I'll continue to do full-time as our funding shifts. But in the meantime, I'm excited to be doing STEM, and STEM for me is exciting just because of my background, but it's always, especially working with K through 12 youth, it's that opportunity in some ways to get to play and try and tinker and continue to be creative and building things and doing things that continue to have us think and help youth to also learn and think as well. So one of the things that we have is we have our 4-H STEM blog, and those are things that we have a STEM design team across Ohio, and those are other educators like me who have STEM as a background. And so STEM lessons are things that are that this is probably an initiative, I think, but it came out mostly during COVID, where we started, we couldn't go do a lot of our programming with youth. So we posted kind of our lessons and posted those in a blog format. And we have them sorted. I'll show that a little later by age and subject matter, so that whatever lesson a teacher may be looking for, they can go find that as well. The first thing is, I think when we think about 4-H, we think about animals and livestock, and certainly the farming. 4-H has been around for about 100 years, and it did get its founding in agriculture. And in what we found was adults did not want to listen to the best practices in agriculture, and so we started to show that to youth, and then youth were more of a pliable audience, and youth learned and picked up the information. And then they often took it home and were able to have a better inlay with their parents and grandparents from that perspective. So the animals, this is our last year's project involvement for 4-H. And so last year, 72,000 youth were involved in animals. And but if you look at it, our next largest project area would be STEAM or STEM related projects. Over 20,000 of our youth took projects in STEAM related topics. So it is up and coming. It's something that's probably in the last 10 years has been really important. In fact, when I was in 4-H, there was not the kind of programming in STEM that there is today. So when youth take a 4-H project, typically they're taking it from the springtime when they join a 4-H club, and they take that project into the late summer, whenever their county fair happens to be. And so here are just a number of our different STEM-related projects. We have about 200 different projects overall. Only 10% of those are livestock related. So you can see how just beyond livestock, we have STEM, we have health related topics, we have photography and art, but these are mostly our STEM related topics. And so everything from knots and woodworking, which is more non-technology, hands-on type things, to engines, where we start to get to look at how things are being built, to now we're looking at electronics, welding, solar energy, and even robotics. And in our robotics book, one of our authors was Mr. Tad Dowse, who many of you know and have recognized from his work across the state as well. And so we've partnered with him. And so we get the subject matter experts around the state and around the room to help youth learn about these various topics. But that isn't in the traditional sense. Youth would join a club, and that club has volunteers, local volunteers that are led by like someone in my position who's their local county educator. And that process then normally culminates with a project judging and the county fair. And then if your project is good enough, you go on to the state fair. But what we found, and what we actually started early, right before the pandemic, we created 4-H spin clubs. And so in another club, you might have kids taking all different sorts of projects. As a 4-H spin club, they're a special interest club because we're taking a specific topic about what kids might learn about. So for instance, we might have a robotics or a photography or a gardening spin club, and that is the main focus of that club. So it's 6 to 8 weeks, we're gathering those youth. And what we're trying to find there is kind of that first generation youth that has never been in 4-H before. And hopefully, maybe if they don't know about 4-H, they're joining because they hear the word robotics or they hear the word photography. And so they are joining based on that. So we started those in November of 2019. And what happens in March of 2020, but a pandemic comes along. And so we did shift those to more of a virtual environment. Now we're kind of back to doing them in both manners, both in person and virtually. But the virtual component allowed us to do teaching with our colleagues from across the state with a spin club. Youth could attend from across the state. And so even if I did, in Hardin County where I live, I've always had a STEM-based focus with my youth programming. But in other counties, maybe where they don't have a STEM-based focus, this would allow youth to participate as well. And so any volunteer who has a specific interest can create a spin club and work with their local county extension educator to do that. They don't have to be led by someone, for instance, in my position. Okay, so we talked about our STEM blog, and that again continued with the pandemic of how we started to get connected to youth and other educators across the state, because what we found was, a lot of our project books and a lot of our resources, we knew that we had those resources, but others didn't, and so we wanted to get those out there, and so we started to do them in a more digital format. National 4-H, so every state has 4-H. It's usually connected to what's called the land grant university. So as an example, in Ohio, that's Ohio State. In Indiana, that would be Purdue. In Pennsylvania, that would be Penn State. So there's always a connected university to 4-H. But nationally, 4-H has 4-H STEM challenges that they've done every October they release a new STEM challenge. And the nice thing is you can do those in your classroom with youth. Sometimes our 4-H professionals will come into your classroom to do those STEM challenges. But the neat thing is after the year is over, that they come with a kit that they put together. But those kits then become posted for free after that. So there's kind of over 10 years of different STEM challenges that are available on the 4-H website. So if you are looking for Ohio resources, you go to ohio4h.org. If you're looking for national resources, you can go to 4-h.org. And that's where those STEM challenges exist. But what we've seen, I guess, just as a STEM vision for our state, is that whether they be technical, digital, or mechanical type skills, we're looking for, and manufacturers and other companies are looking for a more diverse workforce that have some of those high demand technical creativity and education-based careers. And so that the need for youth that have that technical knowledge, or that just that the ability to process and think more computationally, or think in structured type formats, that's where the demand is in the workforce. And so how do we help create that in a K-12 environment? Specifically, I've kind of developed this mantra is I want to shift our youth of today from being content consumers, so somebody who's sitting on their phone, consume, whether it's Netflix or videos or things like that, social media, from being content consumers to being content creators. How do they create the videos? How do they create the apps? How do they learn what's underneath that phone, and the components of that phone, what makes up that phone, and how they would be then able to put that together and be the creator of something. So we've had a partnership with Apple, and Ohio is one of the first partnerships to partner with 4-H. Now, they've partnered with school districts before, but this was the first of its kind to partner with 4-H. And so Ohio partnered with Apple in 2020, and then last year they added Michigan, Tennessee, and New Jersey as other participating 4-H entities. And we created something we call Clover's Code. And Clover's Code is helping youth take technology and teach both creativity using technology and coding. So the code stands for Creating Opportunities Designed for Everyone. And so we're teaching creativity using technology, but we're also teaching coding. And so this is kind of our key program. And so if you look at the map, if your county is listed on this map, not only do we have all the other access to the other curriculum and resources that we mentioned before, but your county is now part of our Clover's Code initiative. And there are now 44 counties, and we're looking to add some more counties here in the fall. So those 44, which will probably maybe be around 50 or so by this fall, those counties are specifically getting Apple devices, getting some robotics, and the curriculum to be able to help youth around that topic. And because we're a county-based organization, Apple is kind of excited because instead of just giving that to one school district and the equipment sits in one school district, we have the ability as 4-H to do outreach within the schools and in the summer, where we can go to any school district within that region. And so 4-H has what they call the 4-H career pathway. And so put in the model here of computer science, we want to help move youth along a pathway. And so initially, there's four kind of components: explore, learn, practice, and experience. So as an explorer, if you were doing computer science, it may be a youth's first time with computer science, or even knowing what coding was, or the first time that they put together a small couple lines of code that might help a character move across the screen. So they kind of have that first initial experience. They're exploring that. Maybe they're doing it for us because we came into their classroom, or at the county fair, or at camp, they've experienced this. And so they're getting kind of that interest in coding, or whatever the topic may be. And so then we have the learn perspective. This could be as part of an after school, as part of a spin club like we talked about before, as a week-long tech or coding camp that we're doing. And so they start to see themselves as being more competent, being able to create things and put things together. And usually at the end of the camp or the end of that club, they have a product, something that they created or they're displaying. And then with practice and exploration, they may start doing this in high school. They may think about designing their own app, or creating something on their own. And then as they're exploring, they're thinking about, can I do this as a career? Who are my mentors through that process? Who can I engage with to look at colleges or careers? And so what is related to that? So how do we move kids along that pathway? So Apple has several different curriculums, and these are all available on their websites for free. So it's not anything that's specific to 4-H, but they have several curriculum that everyone can code. So that would be one of their curriculums, and it works with their Swift playgrounds, which you then can code little characters on the screen. So this app design journal kind of walks people through different experiences. Then they have their creativity software, and creativity that helps through, and of course it's on iPad, but the nice thing that I think you can do is take these lessons, and whether you have iPads or Chromebooks, you can use some of these same lessons. You just have to modify them. They may not have the exact program, but most programs have a place you can create music. Most have a way to draw things on a screen. Most phones take pictures. So whether you're taking them on an iPad or an Android device, most phones can take video. So then how do you take those lessons and help people learn to, again, be those content creators, so they're creating things. So then the curriculum moves them through how to make podcasts, how to create their own music, how to draw and create using, in this case, the Apple Pencil. And then using photos, how to manipulate photos, how to adjust and take a photo and then create something different with the photo, and then the same with video. So the lessons kind of walk them through that creation aspect. They also have these are just, if you're looking for something, I use these creative activities as kind of my icebreaker with a lot of my kids. So they have to take something and maybe they have to create the newest emoji. And so they are drawing that or storyboarding that out, and then they showcase that to the case. And so in my last class that I did last week, I actually became an emoji. A kid drew a picture of me and made me into an emoji. And I said, no, wait, there's something wrong with this emoji, because this emoji has gray hair. And I said, and that's definitely wrong. And they said, oh, should it have been white? And I just hung my head and I go, okay, well, I guess that's what this youth saw me as is that older and wiser person that was helping them with technology. So Apple has some different things. We've also had some different grants through Google, and Google has their CS First initiative. So there are a lot of different ways that companies are trying to reach out. And 4-H is also trying to do that as well. So whether it's 4-H STEM related to technology, or what 4-H is even more famous for is that hands-on learning, hands-on ability to learn outside the classroom and inside the classroom. We are continuing to evolve, just as I'm sure you all as educators are as well. The pandemic kind of pushed us into that evolution, but especially in Ohio, as we look at companies like Intel coming to Ohio, it's something that we can't get away from. So how do we take youth from being that the people that are consuming that content and using Intel's chips and using all these devices to actually the creators of the chips, the creators of the devices, the creators of the content. And that's where I would hope that we can help steer our youth and give them that spark for creativity.
Great. I'm kind of wondering, you said there were like about 200 projects that 4-H has?
Yeah.
And so all those wind up going to the local fair and potentially the state fair?
Right. So we have our family guide, which is our kind of our kid, what I call the kid in the candy store, where they can look at all the different projects that are available in 4-H. And the majority of those, probably 95%, will they participate at the county fair, and then they can go on to state fair and participate if they do well at the county fair. County fair for us is it's an opportunity. It's not, you don't have to go to the county fair to participate in 4-H. A lot of our spin clubs just do the spin club. They learn about the subject matter, and then that's the end of their process. But those youth who do decide to go on, then have that ability to showcase their work at the fair.
Mark, are some of the activities actually held in schools? Some of your comments kind of referred to what I thought was a school setting.
Yeah, and so we're because we're primarily we start our traditional 4-H season in the spring and go throughout the summer county fair season. Most of those fairs will end around September. It kind of then allows us to shift to during the school year to doing kind of in school and after school programming. So depending on the school district, sometimes if there's an existing after school, we'll be they kind of do the format where they provide the setting, and then we come in and become subject matter content for the youth that are involved in that. Otherwise, we can come into classrooms. One STEM thing that is really popular for our younger students is when we come and hatch baby chicks. Mm-hmm. So we bring the incubators in, we do the incubators in the classroom, and they get to kind of see that life cycle there. So those are done in the classroom and during that school year when we're kind of off cycle from our traditional 4-H programming.
Mm-hmm. Might you talk about the 3 or 4 classes of projects? Is a student eligible to take a STEM activity and an animal project and that kind of a mix mash and work them through?
Yeah, so a student can take as many projects as they want to in a given year. Sometimes we try to give them a little bit of expectations to say, you know, maybe your first year start out with 1 or 2 projects, and then as you become successful with those, you can add more. But yeah, a lot of times we'll have youth that will take a livestock project, and then they'll take the electricity project or something that they also have an interest in. So it often depends. Most of our clubs are more general in that, like, you can take any project. There, I have in Hardin County, I have the Hardin Hackers, and we do technology and STEM-based projects. But doesn't mean they couldn't take an animal project. It just means that I'm not going to be that expert for them as a club advisor. My focus is going to be on that. Just the same way that if they're in more of an animal club, the animal advisor may not be able to instruct them in a STEM-based thing, but the project books kind of walk them through the activities and the things that they need to do.
Is there also then a master overall index of all the potential topics?
Yeah, I have the websites to kind of walk through, so let me just do that here. So this is our Ohio 4-H Youth Development page. Right now, if I go to statewide programs and 4-H science, that gets me to this landing page. Here are some of our different topic areas. Our 10-minute science, our quick little science things that they can do, our STEM pathways, our lesson plans. And then these are specific to supporting some of the projects. So for instance, like if they were taking the robotics project and the advisor didn't have a knowledge of that, this kind of walks them through that. But also in our family guide, this is kind of our project guide that that can be downloaded as a PDF, or we also have printed copies in our county offices. But this showcases all the different topics by category. So food and nutrition, healthy living, home living, money management, STEM, and then the different projects are listed under each one of those. So once they get into like the animal science, they're going to find the animal related projects, and it kind of goes from there. In addition to that, if they go in that same category, we have our Project Central. And what Project Central does is that allows youth and families to say, well, let's see, my child is a beginner level and they're interested in this topic area. So they say, I want to do STEM related projects. And then what appears is some of the projects based on what I select. So it's kind of the same as that book, but it's the ability that it reduces that to just what I'm selecting. And then when you click on a specific project, it actually lets you see the first couple pages of that project book and be able to decide if that's something that they want to take as a project. And each county has their own county office. It's usually in the county seat of the office, but they sell the project books there. And you can find out more about your own county and some of the deadlines and requirements based on going to the countyname.osu.edu. So for instance, I'm in Hardin County. It would be hardin.osu.edu. That's the website. And you just take your specific county name and plop it into the .osu.edu, and you can be able to see that there. Here is our is our STEM blog, as we talked about before. So if you're a parent or educator and you have 3rd to 5th grade, you can click on that. It's going to give you all the different activities. If you have specific subject matter, for instance, electricity, you can zero in on those. And then if you have a certain time limit, like I got 30 minutes that I got to fill in my class and I got to find something, you can click on the time and then find certain STEM activities.
Oh, that's neat.
So we kind of group those to make it easy to find. And then each one has lesson plans or video that kind of go along with that. The National STEM Challenge, this is at 4h.org. And our last one was based on Galaxy Quest, which was related to astronomy and Mars. But if you go then to the bottom, here are all of our past ones. Game Changers and Code Your World, those were related to coding. Incredible Wearables and Drones, those are based on things that we can create and code to do things for us. But a lot of different ones over the years, but you click on that and you can get the curriculum after the fact that's there. And then as we talked about the creative ideas for kids, having them make a time-lapse video, just going on a photo scavenger hunt, doing some different things related to technology.
And those activities are from Apple? Those 30 and 30?
Yeah, the last ones are specifically from Apple, but again, they're kind of device agnostic in that they can, you can take a picture from any device that a youth might have and then create something around it. So one of them is that they take a picture of a everyday object like a cup, and then they have to make that cup come alive. So maybe the cup gets a face on it and gets arms, and maybe the handle becomes their arm, and so they have to then take that and personify it as if it's a human. And then what would that cup be saying? Like, help me, I'm empty, or something like that. So it's kind of the fun ways to get them to think about doing creative things with technology instead of just doing them on their own.
Yeah, as the programs have changed over the years, like what are your percentages between urban and your traditional programs? Is it more of an urban?
Yeah, so we have about 88,000 youth that are in what our traditional club program would be. So they're starting in the spring and culminating with that county fair experience. And then we probably have over 200,000 youth that are involved in other ways, such as going into the school districts and doing our spin clubs and doing the Clover's Code program that we're starting now. And so I think that's probably more where we're picking up a lot of our urban audiences is going into some of the school districts and partnering on these short-term spin clubs because that they don't have maybe grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles and parents who are in 4-H who just say, okay, you're a 3rd grader, it's time to join 4-H. Those audiences we've had to kind of grow along the way, and so we're trying to adapt and grow, but being founded in our rural roots with agriculture. A lot of times, when I was younger, I lived in Chillicothe, Ohio, before moving up to Northwest Ohio, and I didn't join 4-H because that was for the country kids. I lived in the city. And then when I came up to Northwest Ohio, it was, well, why aren't you in 4-H? Like everybody's in 4-H. But you know, there was that realization. I thought you had to have animals to be in 4-H, and I didn't know about a lot of the other different programs that were there. And so part of that is just helping tell our story and helping say, if your kid is interested in something, in a topic, we probably have it. And if they don't, we have what's called our self-determined project, which basically means that they write their own, you know, it's kind of creating their own project, what they want to learn about, what they want to create. You can have a guide that helps them do that. So we try to be, you know, open to any of the interests that you might have.
Yeah, there's really a fascinating, great variety of things. As I was making notes as we're going along, a lot of things I want to follow up and you see how they could best be recommended, or things we might stick in our newsletter to remind folks of the resources and all the variety of partnerships that could be formed.
And I think another interesting thing, a lot of times, I know in 4-H, you know, we go to our national 4-H conference, and you certainly have your own entities or conferences that you attend. And so, you know, that's kind of where I met Paul, was being able to go outside of the 4-H world, and we went to the technology conference for educators. And so by also kind of leaving our own comfort zones of the people that we know and connect with, it gives us the opportunity to share, you know, resources beyond just within each other and within ourselves.
Yeah, there's a great deal of shared interest and, you know, motivation and promotion of like experiences. So yeah, they really all fit together very nicely. Yeah, we have another part of the association that does work with, you're promoting elementary materials. So again, this would be an especially good connection there.
I'm kind of curious. So with so many different projects, obviously, even you don't have expertise in all of them. So you have multiple people. And I assume you just have local folks that, like, if an engineer were local, they might help out with a club doing something. I was also kind of wondering, do you go between counties in cases? So like if nobody over in Auglaize knew how to do coding, do you kind of go over and help out over there too? Well, you do that statewide, I guess, because you're your statewide director, but.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, our youth are specifically kind of connected to a specific county. Our volunteers also usually connect to a specific county, often because they live in that county.
Right.
And so that's the county they connect with. But our volunteers have always, you know, I think been willing to kind of go across county lines and support that. I think as 4-H, we didn't start doing that as much until COVID hit. And then we decided to how do we leverage technology to say, you know, I could host a robotics check-in with youth who are taking the robotics project by having them get on Zoom and talk to them about any questions they may have. And so maybe that local club volunteer is just checking with them and saying, are you getting your project done? Are you completing, you know, making progress? But they're not going to know the technical, you know, knowledge. And so by bringing in other adult volunteers who have some technical knowledge, we've also used college students as mentors, especially with some of our technical projects, because they, you know, are learning about it themselves, and that gives them a chance to practice, and then of course put something on their resumes. But even as a county professional, there's in Hardin County we have 35 clubs and just one professional, so we depend on over 100 volunteers in just one county to help deliver the program. So there's also volunteer opportunities for people who have interest and want to share this with youth.
And then when
Yeah.
you're, you know, when you're working with schools, is it just accepted that they'll not be an official club? I mean, based on availability of staff and such, you can engage schools as a volunteer program coming into the building.
Yeah, a lot of times, you know, if it's just come into my classroom for an hour, then it's more of that explore phase, you know, that we talked about before. We're just introducing them to a specific topic. But if they want to have us in regularly, we've created in-school spin clubs, and so those, we're more and more allowing those youth to become members as a spin club. And the main thing that we want to do is have they spent over 6 hours of time is kind of that marker that we use to say that's been, you know, they've been invested in that specific topic. And so those are our after school clubs. Those are we have a partnership with a teacher that allows us to come in regularly. The hard part with during the day, I think, is teachers are so tied down to you know, statewide testing and things that oftentimes they feel like I often say our phone rings off the hook in May because statewide testing is done, and it's like, hey, can you come shoot off rockets in my classroom or do this in my classroom? But oftentimes what they don't always realize is that a lot of our curriculum and a lot of our things also relates to the state standards. And provides that hands-on learning for what they're already learning and preparing for in the test. And so I think we can find ways of integrating throughout the school year as well, and fit into those standards without just having to tack us on to the May time frame when all that testing is done and they're looking for some rewarding type education type things.
For the STEM kinds of activities, are resources generally available across the state, or is it kind of like schools where some counties are not as it's not as accessible? I can see that being in part just the internet accessibility. In some places gets pretty rare.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've done that in a couple of different ways. First of all, you know, some of my colleagues, their expertise is livestock and animals. So I send my kids a lot of times with their questions to them, and they send their robotics questions and other things like that to me. So we do that kind of sharing across the state. For school-based programming, we have several, I guess what I would call standard ones. Like the chick embryology and things that we're all kind of trained on, that can be done. Right now, only about half of our counties have the Clover's Code. So, you know, if that was the case, you might have to borrow an educator from a neighboring county if you wanted that in your school, and that county didn't have the technology resources. But otherwise, a lot of our early based programming in STEM was not technology based. It was things you could find around your household. Like we have the one project that's called kitchen chemistry. So it's like things are all in your kitchen, and so for those kind of things, a lot of our educators can do what I would call non-tech projects related to STEM. But it just varies. You know, to what that interest that local professional has. But we all do school programming in some way, just some of it's STEM related and some of it's not.
You know, when a unit or an activity describes materials or a project, do you have identified common sources where folks can get their kit of material or parts to build?
So yeah, most of the ones that are listed on our STEM blog, or in our Ohio 4H.org curriculum, it kind of has that parts list of things that you would need prior to doing that. So those are mostly the ones that I say you can find the materials around your house, the ones that are posted on the internet. The same way true with our 4-H project books, like our electricity book, it'll kind of list off the things that you need to use. I think that, the good and bad, I guess, of the internet is that there are so many resources out there that we all can use, and so many people put their materials online during the pandemic that it now is like there's almost maybe too much out there and too much things, because I also get together with a national STEM organization with other states who are doing STEM, and they got their websites as well. So you think about 50 4-H websites that are all saying that same thing. And then Ohio's doing that, and then there are education teacher web pages and such. But I think I think that's the bad, is there's a lot of stuff to weed through. But the good is that we don't really have to think about maybe that program plan. You're not just by yourself anymore as an educator. You have the ability to have resources and people. I think the other thing that, like for instance, NASA having the Skype a scientist and bring an astronaut or a scientist into your classroom, those are the things that weren't possible unless that astronaut was a part of your hometown, or you had a connection with a connection with a connection that you could get that person in your classroom. So, I mean, I think I think that has been the difference. I think what sets us apart from websites, that are out there and about is that we're in every community. So we're in all 88 counties. We're an outreach arm of the University of Ohio State University, and so we're available to be that local K-12 part and assist our educators any way we can.
Yeah, it just really has been a fascinating presentation. One just being able to awaken us to the variety of things that you are engaged, as well as the targeted resources. So we'll have to see how to go back through and pull off the different websites and write up a little article for for our newsletter readers to describe the pieces, as well as then tune into the archive of your presentation. So
sure. I can share the PowerPoint.
Yeah, if you could send me the PowerPoint, that'd be great. One of the things I've really appreciated with the 4-H program over the years is how at the level when you take it to the county or the state fair, the learner really gets a chance to talk with somebody about the topic, and it's kind of a question and answer kind of thing, and almost reminiscent of maybe English evaluation in schools and stuff like that. I really appreciate that. I've been a judge at a variety of ones at the state fair over years, depending on what was needed and whether I was available and that kind of stuff. But I always enjoy just sitting down with the 4-H'er and talking through their electricity and what they've done and the project they came up with and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the things of our project evaluation, or just any kind of 4-H education, is because of technology has taken away that ability. I mean, a lot of youth today that they don't even call each other to talk on the phone. They just text it back and forth, and so that infiltrates, and then they maybe are not the best communicators as they could be. And so I think 4-H wise, we still want to see that interaction take place. And so we want them to present at a 4-H judging and be able to tell about their topic. And the one thing I think too is, the pressure for even though they are kind of competing to be able to get an award at the county or go on to state fair, by not having that graded pressure, what's the test and what am I going to get on that test? We have the ability to, allow that youth to share without repercussions. They're sharing because they're passionate about that topic and they learned a lot, and they want to share it with somebody, and not necessarily because trying to get this specific grade or so it's learning for the sake of learning. And I think that always takes the pressure off a little bit. I always say the thing I love about 4-H camp though is that the parents drop their kids off and then leave. And sometimes I wish that we could do that with fair and project judging is just drop your kid off. We'll take care of them. They can share their project, and the parents not there. Not tell them about this. Not tell them, but and kind of coaching them. Because I think to me, I want to see the poster board that looks like the kid did it, not the poster board that looks like it came off of a printing press or something. So
that was. But one part of it, especially back when I was doing woodworking judging, was like figuring out did the kid do this? Did grandpa do this?
Yeah, and we have some really talented kids. I think,
we sure do
that are doing some things. So I don't always want to jump to that conclusion, but sometimes you wonder. In fact, during the pandemic, we did have to switch our judging to more video-based judging because we weren't allowed to be in person.
Right.
And you could hear on some of those recordings where the mom is looking out. What am I supposed to say? And I look off to the side, because they didn't practice. I say stop the video and restart the video if you need to have that question and answer time.
Yeah. That was nice about the state fair setup. At least the mom and dad might help carry something over to the thing, but they had to be outside the fence area.
60 feet away.
Right. Yeah, we have to keep them on the outside. So.
Any other questions, Dick?
No, just really grand. Yeah, probably might have some more questions when I get back into the website and track down some of those pieces. So and please, you can include my email address with both in the newsletter and this recording. But light.42@osu.edu, and would be happy to, if I can't be the one to present with your school, I can certainly point you in the right direction with others. Yeah, something we have that might be of interest to you, and you could decide on that. We as association get together and oft on a weekly basis or so pull together a newsletter of current opportunities and resources and that sort of thing. And Paul sent you a copy of it, and you could see if it's something that, as general background information, scattering might be interesting to your 4-H staff as well as some of the local advisors, and we'd be pleased to share that information. Again, it's seems to be very topical to a lot of the issues that you're concerned with, and always looking for good resources that help explain things. So
we're glad to cross share.
Yeah,
and we got a conference coming up in the fall, so
okay.
That would be another neat opportunity where our technology summit that'll be up in Marion.
Okay.
Again, kind of sharing resources and such.
Yeah.
And then we've had you folks to our state conference too a couple of years back up in Marion.
That's where I attended that a couple of years ago, simply because it's just 45 minutes from where I'm at. So would be. I haven't been a couple of years since I've
Yeah.
been to that
And
one.
one time
gladly.
the staff there were developing these little STEM kits that could be borrowed.
Shoebox STEM. That was one of my.
That's
that was one of my endeavors.
you're the roots of that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That was again a fascinating resource.
Mhm.
That was really neat.
Yeah, the purpose was just the curriculum and all the materials were in this little
Yeah,
shoebox size thing that a
Yeah.
teacher could pick up and take, or
Yeah.
an educator could take to the classroom.
Yeah, I sniffed around a little hard at that idea. So we thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, and now, I should have marketed it more or patented or whatever, because COSI now is creating these STEM kits.
Yeah.
And they're selling them for like $40, and it just has like cups and popsicle sticks and scissors in them. I mean, they're not anything spectacular, but they're marketing them and selling them. So I probably should have thought about that. As educators, we don't always think of the entrepreneurial mindset of what we should do, but we just think about, let's give the resource to somebody who needs it. So.
Yep.
Yeah, the in-town group, the American Ceramic Society, has a variety of material sciences kits too that are middle school and high school oriented. So we should have kids that are more involved in the scientific or the materials engineering part of it. There's a lot of good resources there. Yes, again, a fascinating afternoon. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.